The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door wearing a name tag that says, "Hello, I'm here to destroy your life." No, it slips in through the cracks while you're busy being a good husband, a good provider, a good man. It moves into your home, eats at your table, sleeps in your bed, and smiles at you over morning coffee while planning its escape route. I'm Chris Taylor, and I spent 6 years married to a woman I thought I knew. I was wrong. Friday evening. Our dining room looked like something out of a home magazine. Megan had insisted on the renovation last spring. Italian marble table, custom lighting, those uncomfortable chairs that cost more than my first car. Her parents, Richard and Linda Patterson, sat across from us working through the beef Wellington that Megan had ordered from some overpriced catering service. Richard was holding court about some merger his former law firm had botched. The man loved the sound of his own voice almost as much as he loved reminding everyone he came from old money. Linda nodded along, her third glass of wine catching the chandelier light. And Megan, my wife of 6 years, the woman I'd built a life with, couldn't stop looking at her phone. Every few minutes, her eyes would drift down. A small smile would play at the corner of her lips. Her thumb would move across the screen, hidden beneath the table's edge but not hidden from me. I'm a cybersecurity consultant. Noticing things people try to hide is literally my job. "Chris, don't you think?" Richard's voice cut through my observation. "Sorry, what was that?" "The Henderson case. The precedent it set for corporate liability." "I'm sure you're right, Richard." He frowned at my non-answer but continued his monologue. I watched my wife. That smile again. That private, secret little smile that I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just recognition. The way a doctor might recognize a tumor on a scan. Clinical? Certain. Megan laughed softly at whatever was on her screen. "Must be something funny," I said. Her head snapped up. "What?" "Your phone. You've been smiling at it all evening." "Oh." She waved her hand dismissively. "Just work stuff. Sarah from marketing sent a meme." A lie. I knew it immediately. Megan didn't laugh at memes. She barely tolerated them. "Let me see," I said, reaching over. "Chris, it's nothing." My hand closed around the phone before she could pull it away. Military intelligence teaches you a lot of things. How to read people. How to stay calm under pressure. How to move fast when it matters. The chat was open, not a meme, not Sarah from marketing. The first thing I saw was a photo that made my stomach drop. Then another. Then a message. "I love you. Can't wait until we're finally together." And then, soon. Once I get the house and the divorce, we'll have everything we've planned for. 8 months of messages. I scrolled. Pet names. Hotel receipts, screenshotted for records. Plans. So many plans for a future that didn't include me except as a stepping stone. The name at the top of the chat. Derek Holloway. "Chris." Megan's voice had gone thin, reedy. "Chris, give me my phone." "Richard," I said, and my voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm, level, like I was reading a weather report. "Let me share some of your daughter's correspondence with you." "What are you doing?" Linda set down her wine glass. I read the first message aloud. Explicit. Detailed. Richard's face went gray. I read the second. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. I read the third. The one about the house, about the divorce, about the money. Megan lunged across the table. "Give it back! Chris, stop it!" I held the phone away from her easily, continuing to read. My voice never wavered. I'd briefed generals on hostile threats. I'd testified in federal court about security breaches. I could certainly narrate my wife's betrayal without breaking down. "This one's from 3 weeks ago," I said. "I transferred another $5,000 today. He won't notice." He never checks the accounts. By the time he figures it out, we'll be long gone. Richard stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Megan Elizabeth Patterson. Daddy, it's not… I can explain. 8 months. I set the phone down on the table. 8 months, by my count. Possibly longer. Derek Holloway. That name mean anything to you, Richard? Senior VP at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. Your daughter's boss. Married man. 2 children. Linda made a sound like a wounded animal. Dinner is over, I said, standing. Richard, Linda, take your daughter home. She is no longer my wife. Chris, please. Megan was crying now, the pretty tears she'd perfected over years of getting what she wanted. Please, just let me explain. It's not what it looks like. I was going to end it, I swear. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. Before or after you took the house? Before or after you cleaned out our accounts? She had no answer for that. I walked out of the dining room, up the stairs to the master bedroom. I pulled out her suitcases, the expensive Louis Vuitton set she'd insisted on for our anniversary trip to Paris, and began packing her things. Methodically, efficiently, the way I did everything. I could hear shouting downstairs. How could you be so stupid? Richard's voice thundered through the floor. Derek Holloway, a married man, your own boss? Daddy, please, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand that you've made a fool of yourself and embarrassed this entire family. What were you thinking? Richard, lower your voice. Linda trying to smooth things over. Always trying to smooth things over. Don't you tell me to lower my voice. Our daughter has been conducting an affair for 8 months and planning to divorce her husband for his money. His money, Linda. The money he earned while she was busy. I love him, Megan screamed. Is that so hard to understand? Derek loves me. We're going to be together. This was never about Chris's money. It was about… About what? About your corner office? Your promotion? Richard laughed bitterly. You think I don't know how those things work? You think I spent 40 years in corporate law without seeing 100 women just like you? The sound of something shattering. A glass, maybe. Or a vase. Richard Patterson, that is enough, Linda's voice, sharper than I'd ever heard it. It's not nearly enough. Not nearly. I kept packing. Her jewelry went into a smaller bag. The designer shoes she'd spent thousands on. The silk robes, the cashmere sweaters, the little luxuries she'd accumulated throughout our marriage. All of it, neatly organized, ready to go. 20 minutes later, Richard appeared in the doorway. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Chris, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. If there's anything, there isn't. He nodded slowly. We're taking her to our house. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry. Good night, Richard. He hesitated, then turned and left. I heard car doors, an engine starting, tires on gravel. Then silence. I finished packing her things and left the suitcases by the front door. Then I went to bed and slept soundly for the first time in months. Strange, isn't it? The uncertainty had been the thing keeping me awake. The nagging feeling that something was wrong. Now I knew. And knowing, however brutal, was better than wondering. Saturday morning. I woke at 6, the same time I always did. Made coffee, the same way I always did. Sat at the kitchen table with my laptop the same as every morning. But nothing was the same. I opened our bank accounts first. Joint checking. The balance was lower than it should have been. Much lower. I pulled up the transaction history and started tracking the withdrawals. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here and there, then larger. 5,000. 8,000. All transferred to an account I'd never seen before. $47,000. Over 8 months, my wife had siphoned off $47,000 into a secret account. I am not a man who rages. Rage is wasteful. Rage makes you stupid. But sitting at that kitchen table, Looking at those numbers, I felt something cold and sharp crystallize inside me. Not rage. Something more useful. Purpose. I called Nathan Brooks. We'd been friends since college, roommates freshman year, groomsmen at each other's weddings. He'd gotten divorced 2 years back, so he handled family law now. Said he understood the terrain. "It's 6:30 in the morning," he groaned when he answered. "I need you at my house. Bring coffee. Bring your brain. It's about Megan." A pause. "How bad?" "Come find out." He showed up an hour later, 2 large coffees in hand, looking like he'd dressed in the dark. He took one look at my face and sat down heavily at the kitchen table. "All right, tell me everything." So I did. The dinner, the phone, the way Richard had gone pale, how Linda had dropped her wine glass. The messages, explicit, detailed, damning. The plans for divorce, for taking the house, for building a future on the wreckage of our marriage. And the money. $47,000, siphoned away over 8 months while I trusted her, believed her, loved her. Nathan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Say something," I said. "I'm trying to figure out which part makes me angriest." He shook his head slowly. The affair I could almost understand. People make mistakes. But the money, the planning, the systematic way she was setting you up to be the loser in a divorce she was engineering. That's not a mistake. That's premeditation. 47 grand, he repeated. That's not just an affair, Chris. That's preparation. That's exit strategy. I know what it is. What happened after you threw her out? Any contact? She's been texting, calling. The usual playbook. It's not what it looks like. I was going to end it. We can work through this. Are you considering that? Working through it? I looked at him like he'd grown a second head. Right. Stupid question. He rubbed his face. Okay, let me think. Legally, you're in a strong position. The house is in your name, purchased before the marriage. The embezzlement, and make no mistake, that's what this is, gives you grounds for everything. No alimony, no asset division beyond what's legally mandated, possibly even criminal charges if you wanted to push it. I don't want criminal charges. I want her to lose everything she was planning to take from me. There's a difference between winning and destroying. Is there? Nathan met my eyes. Chris, I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you like this. You're scary calm. You think I should be screaming, throwing things? I think you're planning something. And I need to know what it is before I can help you. I stood, walked to the window, looked out at the backyard where Megan had wanted to put in a pool. Derek Holloway, I said. That name mean anything to you? And Derek Holloway, wait. He frowned. Why do I know that name? Because his company is one of my clients, Meridian Pharmaceuticals. I handle their cybersecurity. Nathan's eyebrows shot up. That's potentially useful. Potentially. Chris. He set down his coffee. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I could divorce her quietly. Walk away, lick my wounds, rebuild. That's the sensible option, right? It's an option. But she was planning to take my house, my money, my future. She was going to leave me with nothing and ride off into the sunset with her married boss. I met his eyes. I don't want sensible, Nathan. I want thorough. Thorough how? I want her to lose everything she planned to take from me. Her career, her reputation, her family's respect. I want Derek Holloway to lose everything too. And I want to do it without breaking a single law. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. A hard, sharp smile I'd never seen on him before. Well then, he said. Let's get to work. Sunday. Megan showed up at the house. I watched her through the security camera as she rang the doorbell, knocked, peered through the windows. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unwashed. She looked like someone who hadn't slept. Good. She knocked again, more insistently this time. Chris, Chris, please, I know you're in there. The car's in the driveway. Please just talk to me. I watched from the upstairs window, careful not to let her see me. She was wearing the cashmere sweater I'd bought her for Christmas, the one she'd said was too simple, but that I'd caught her wearing around the house anyway. Manipulation. Every gesture, every choice, carefully calculated to remind me of better times. Chris! She pressed her palm against the front door. Please, I'm begging you. Just give me 10 minutes. You owe me that much. I owed her nothing, but she didn't understand that yet. After 20 minutes of knocking and pleading, she gave up and sat on the front step. That's when she started with the phone. She called my phone. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. Then the texts started. Chris, please, we need to talk. I made a terrible mistake. I know that. But we can work through this. Don't throw away 9 years over one mistake. One mistake. 8 months of lies, and she called it one mistake. I love you. I've always loved you. Derek meant nothing. I screenshotted everything. Evidence. You could never have too much evidence. Please, Chris, your silence is killing me. That was almost funny. My silence was killing her. Not the affair. Not the theft. Not the betrayal of everything we'd supposedly built together. My silence. I know you're hurt. You have every right to be angry. But couples survive this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. She was still sitting on the front step when her father's Mercedes pulled into the driveway around 4 o'clock. I watched through the window as she got up, as Richard stepped out of the car with a face like a storm cloud, as they exchanged words I couldn't hear. Whatever he said made her flinch. Then she got into the car and they drove away. I went back to my research. Derek Holloway, 38 years old, MBA from Wharton, fast-tracked to senior VP by 40, married to Victoria Holloway née Ashford for 12 years. 2 children, a boy and a girl, 8 and 6. His wife came from old Boston money, the kind that made Richard Patterson's wealth look like pocket change. And here's where it got interesting. Meridian Pharmaceuticals had a strict non-fraternization policy. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates were grounds for immediate termination. It was right there in the employee handbook. I knew because I'd reviewed their security policies, which included HR documentation. I dug deeper. Megan's promotion last year, the one that came with a 20% raise in a corner office, had been Derek's doing. He'd created the position for her. Her performance reviews, which I found backed up in a shared drive she'd forgotten I had access to, didn't justify the advancement. I was starting to see the shape of things. This wasn't a love affair. This was a transaction. Derek got a young, attractive subordinate who worshipped him. Megan got career advancement and the promise of a rich, powerful husband. The only people who were supposed to lose were me and Victoria Holloway. I needed more. I needed everything. I found the number for Ethan Reed. Former FBI, now private investigation. We'd worked together on a corporate espionage case 3 years back. He was expensive, thorough, and discreet. Chris Taylor, he said when he answered. Been a while. I need your help, Ethan. The personal kind. I'm listening. My wife's been having an affair. 8 months, maybe longer. Her boss, guy named Derek Holloway, Meridian Pharmaceuticals. I want to know everything, every secret, every lie, every person they've wronged. I have time and I have money. Use both. A long pause. You sure about this, Chris? Once you start pulling threads, things unravel fast. That's what I'm counting on. All right, give me 2 weeks. I'll have a full picture. I hung up and stared at the wall. The coldness inside me hadn't faded. If anything, it had hardened into something more solid, more useful. Megan had wanted to play games. Fine. I'd spent my career finding vulnerabilities in systems, exploiting weaknesses, bringing down people who thought they were untouchable. This was no different. Game on. 2 weeks later, Ethan Reed sat across from me at my kitchen table, a thick folder between us. He looked tired but satisfied, the way a hunter looks after a successful expedition. "You're going to want a drink for this," he said. "That bad?" "That interesting." He cracked his knuckles. "Look, before I get into it, are you sure you want to know everything? Because once I open this file, you can't unknow it. Some of what's in here is going to stay with you." "I need to know." "All right, but don't say I didn't warn you." He opened the folder. "Let's start with your wife. Megan Patterson Taylor, Marketing Director, Meridian Pharmaceuticals. Having an affair with Derek Holloway for at least 8 months, but I have reason to believe it started earlier. They meet every Thursday afternoon at the Whitmore Hotel, room 412. Derek pays cash. They're not careful. I got photos, though. I kept them decent." He slid several photographs across the table. Megan and Derek in the hotel lobby, entering a room together, leaving 2 hours later, his hand on her lower back. Her smile, that secret smile I'd seen at dinner. "The hotel staff recognizes them," Ethan continued. "Housekeeping, front desk. They've become regulars. Thursdays at 2, like clockwork. He tips well, apparently. Thinks that buys discretion. It doesn't." "What else?" "Here's where it gets interesting," Ethan continued. "Derek Holloway has done this before, at least twice that I can confirm. Both times with women who reported to him. Both times when he got bored, the women were quietly transferred to dead-end positions until they quit. One of them, Rachel Carter, is still at the company. She filed a complaint 3 years ago. HR buried it." "Buried it how?" "Derek plays golf with the CEO. Old Boys Network. Rachel got told she misinterpreted the situation and should focus on her career. She's been stuck in a basement cubicle ever since. When I tracked her down, she was broken, Chris. 3 years of professional purgatory because she had the nerve to say no to the wrong man." My jaw tightened. "So he's not just a cheat. He's a predator. Serial predator. Uses the same playbook every time. Flattery, special attention, implied promises of advancement. Then, when he's gotten what he wants, gradual withdrawal. And if the woman makes noise, well, that's when the transfers start. Or the bad performance reviews. Or the organizational restructuring that just happens to eliminate her position. And nobody's stopped him? Who's going to stop him? He brings in millions for the company. The board loves him. HR answers to the CEO, who thinks Derek walks on water. The women he's used are scared, scattered. Some of them have signed NDAs as part of separation packages. The system is designed to protect men like him. Until now?" Ethan smiled thinly. "Until now. Gets worse. Derek's not just seeing your wife. He's also been texting with a junior associate named Kayla Bennett. Nothing physical yet from what I can tell, but he's grooming her. Same playbook. Flattery, special attention, promises of mentorship, pattern behavior, textbook." Ethan pulled out another sheet. "Now, the money. That $47,000 your wife moved? I tracked it. She's been giving chunks of it to Derek. She's giving him money? For their future investment property. His words, in a text I got screenshots of. Here's the thing. There is no investment property. The money's just gone. Into his accounts. He's been running this scam for years. Gets women to fall for him, gets them to invest in their future, then walks away when he's bored. Your wife isn't his first mark. She won't be his last." I sat back. He's a con artist. With a corner office and a 7-figure salary. I absorbed this. Megan wasn't just cheating, she was being played. Part of me, some distant part I thought I'd killed, Almost felt sorry for her. Almost. What about his wife? I asked. Victoria Holloway. Interesting woman. Used to be a journalist before she had kids. Sharp, educated, comes from real money. She suspected something about 6 months ago. Hired her own PI, guy I know. She got nervous, called it off before he found anything concrete. But the suspicion's still there. So she knows something's wrong but can't prove it. Exactly, Ethan paused. There's one more thing. It's sensitive. Tell me. He pulled out a final document. 2 years ago, your wife was pregnant. The room went very still. She had a termination. Her mother helped arrange it. Private clinic in Connecticut. There's no record your name was ever mentioned. You didn't know, did you? No. My voice sounded far away. I didn't know. The timing is suggestive. Based on when the pregnancy occurred and when her relationship with Derek appears to have really started, it might not have been mine. I can't say for certain, but it's possible. I stared at the documents. 2 years ago, we'd been trying for a baby. Megan had always put it off. Not yet, she'd say. Let's wait until the time is right. Now I understood. The time would never be right because she was already making other plans. Is there anything else? I asked. One more thing. Victoria Holloway's prenup. Derek signed an infidelity clause. If she can prove he cheated, she gets 70% of everything. Everything? House, investments, retirement accounts, the works. Derek Holloway bet his entire financial future on being able to keep his affairs secret. Ethan smiled grimly. Sounds like a bad bet to me. After he left, I sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by documents and photographs and evidence of betrayal. The cold thing inside me had grown teeth. Victoria Holloway didn't know it yet, but we were about to become allies. And Derek and Megan had no idea what was coming. The charity gala was exactly the kind of event I normally avoided. Crystal chandeliers, waiters with champagne, people in expensive clothes making expensive small talk. But Derek Holloway was on the board of the sponsoring foundation, and I'd checked his calendar during my legitimate security audit. He'd be here tonight, which meant Victoria would too. I spotted her near the silent auction table, a glass of wine in her hand, looking at a painting she clearly had no interest in. She was beautiful in a polished, deliberate way. Blonde hair swept up, black dress understated, but clearly designer. Her expression was the kind of pleasant mask I recognized from Megan's social events. I approached carefully. The composition's all wrong, I said, nodding at the painting. The artist has no sense of balance. She glanced at me, surprised. You know art? I know when something's trying too hard to be what it's not. I extended my hand. Chris Taylor, I believe we have something in common. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I don't think we've met. We haven't. But I think we're both being played by the same person. I have proof. I kept my voice low, conversational. Just two people chatting at a charity event. Would you like to see it? The mask cracked just for a moment. Something raw and desperate flickered in her eyes before she controlled it. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I think you've suspected for a long time. I think every time you brought it up, he made you feel crazy, paranoid, jealous without cause. I paused. I think you hired a PI 6 months ago and called it off because you were afraid of what he might find. Her hand trembled slightly, making the wine ripple in her glass. Who are you? I'm the husband of the woman your husband's been sleeping with. And I have documentation going back 8 months. Hotel receipts, photographs, messages. I'm not here to hurt you, Victoria. I'm here because I think we can help each other. For a long moment, she just looked at me. Then she said quietly, There's a courtyard outside, less visible. 5 minutes. We found a bench behind a carefully manicured hedge, out of sight of the main event. Victoria had abandoned her wine and her composure. Her hands were shaking. "How did you find out?" she asked. She was careless. Looked at her phone too long at a family dinner. I took it. I gave her the short version, the dinner, the messages, the discovery of the money. $47,000. Victoria laughed bitterly. He's been telling me our savings are depleted because of bad investments. He's been collecting from multiple women, from what my investigator found. It's practically a con. A con. She pressed her hands to her face. I've been married to a con artist for 12 years. I've given him children. I've put my career on hold. I've defended him to my family when they said he seemed too smooth, too charming, too good to be true. You couldn't have known. Couldn't I? There were signs. There were always signs. She lowered her hands. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. 6 years ago, a woman at a company Christmas party took me aside. She was drunk, but not that drunk. She told me to be careful. Said Derek had a reputation. I smiled and thanked her, and told myself she was just jealous. What happened to her? She was transferred to the Singapore office 3 months later. I never saw her again. Victoria laughed bitterly. I was so naive. I thought he'd chosen me. I thought I was special. The truth is, I was just the one with enough family money to be worth marrying. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just here because you need something from me? Fair question. Both, I admitted. I'm sorry you're going through this. And yes, I need an ally. Derek and Megan need to face consequences, and I want to coordinate our approach. But I'm not going to lie to you or manipulate you. I think we've both had enough of that. She studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. What do you know about his assets? She asked. Some, not everything. I know everything. Her voice had hardened. I've been keeping track for years, even when I wasn't sure why. He has hidden accounts in his brother's name. Stock options he's never disclosed. A property in Miami he thinks I don't know about. And the prenup? Infidelity clause. 70% of everything if I can prove it. A cold smile crossed her face. He thought I was too stupid to understand what I was signing. He thought I was just a trophy wife who'd look the other way. What do you want to do? I want to destroy him, she said simply. Not just divorce him, destroy him. Take his money, his reputation, his smug certainty that he can do whatever he wants without consequences. She looked at me. What do you want? The same. For both of them. Then let's talk strategy. Over the next hour, we mapped out our approach. Victoria would handle the divorce, time it for maximum impact, catch him completely off guard. I would handle the professional destruction, using my legitimate position as Meridian's security consultant to expose the policy violations without ever doing anything illegal. He's been using corporate resources for his affairs, I explained. Company email for explicit messages, travel expenses charged for personal hotels. When I flag it as a security concern, which it genuinely is, they'll have to investigate. And once they start investigating Derek, they'll find Megan. Her performance reviews, Victoria said. They're fabricated. Derek told me once when he was drunk that he helped some underperforming employee look better on paper. I didn't realize at the time he meant his mistress. I'll make sure the investigation is thorough. And the other women? This Rachel Carter you mentioned? I'm hoping she'll come forward once the investigation starts. Once there's precedent, once it's clear the company is actually taking it seriously, she might finally feel safe enough to talk. Victoria nodded slowly. We need to coordinate timing. If I file for divorce before the professional consequences hit, he might be able to mount some defense. But if the company is already investigating, he'll be too busy defending himself on multiple fronts. He won't know which fire to put out first. And Megan? She goes down with him. They tied themselves together. They can sink together. We shook hands, there behind the hedge, two strangers united by betrayal. Then we went back to the gala, separately, and spent the rest of the evening pretending nothing had changed. Everything had changed. 3 weeks after the gala, I submitted my security audit report to Meridian Pharmaceuticals' legal counsel. The report was factual, professional, and utterly devastating. During my routine review of executive email security, I had discovered significant policy violations including personal use of corporate communication systems for non-business purposes, inappropriate exchanges between supervisory and subordinate personnel, and potential misuse of company expense systems. I didn't name Derek specifically. I didn't have to. The email addresses spoke for themselves. I copied HR on the report. I copied the CEO's office. I recommended immediate investigation into executive conduct to mitigate potential liability exposure. Within 48 hours, Derek Holloway was placed on administrative leave. Victoria called me that evening. "It's starting," she said. "It's starting." He came home in a rage, said someone was sabotaging him, trying to destroy his career. He has no idea it's you. Good. Let's keep it that way. I'm seeing my lawyer tomorrow. I want the divorce papers ready to serve the moment this investigation concludes. Perfect timing. I hung up and stared at my phone. No satisfaction yet. Too early for that. But something like anticipation. The dominoes were starting to fall. Megan called me for the first time since the Sunday after the dinner. Her voice was shaking. "Chris, something's happening at work. Derek's been suspended. There's an investigation." I said nothing. "Chris, please. I know you're angry. I know you have every right to be. But if this investigation, if they find out about us, about your affair with your married boss, you mean, it will ruin me. My career. Everything I've worked for. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with your married boss and stealing money from your husband." "Chris, goodbye, Megan." I hung up. The investigation at Meridian moved faster than I expected. Derek, panicked, had done exactly what I anticipated. He'd told Megan to delete everything. She had. But she'd forgotten that she'd logged into her accounts on my tablet 2 years ago, and everything had synced to my cloud backup. I had copies of messages she thought were gone forever. More importantly, Derek's pattern of behavior started to emerge. HR interviewed his previous assistants. One of them broke down in the interview room and described everything: the flattery, the pressure, the implicit threats to her career if she didn't comply. And then Rachel Carter came forward. 3 years of silence, and she finally had the chance to tell her story. Not just about Derek's advances, but about the retaliation she'd faced when she reported them. The demotions disguised as transfers, the projects taken away, the performance reviews that mysteriously declined. She had documentation, she had witnesses, she had years of suppressed fury. I got her contact information from Ethan and called her just once to tell her what was happening. "Mr. Taylor," she said, her voice guarded. "I know who you are. You're the security consultant. I'm also the husband of Derek's latest conquest. I thought you should know that the company is finally investigating. For real this time." Silence on the line. 3 years, she said finally. 3 years I've been waiting for someone to take this seriously. 3 years of watching him walk past my desk, my cubicle in the basement, smiling like nothing happened. Do you know what that does to a person? I can imagine. No, you can't. Her voice cracked. Before him, I was on the leadership track. Top performer 3 years running. I had a future. Then I made the mistake of turning him down, and suddenly I couldn't do anything right. My projects got reassigned. My ideas got credited to other people. My manager started writing me up for things I'd done the same way for years. I'm sorry. I'm not looking for your sympathy. I'm looking for accountability. She took a breath. You said they're investigating. For real this time? They have evidence they can't ignore. Multiple complaints. A paper trail. Will they fire him? I believe so. Another long silence. What do you need from me? Nothing you're not ready to give. But if you're willing to file a formal complaint, now would be the time. There are other women coming forward. Safety in numbers. Other women. She laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. Of course there are. There always were. I tried to warn them. Some of them listened. Most didn't. The company is going to want to make this go away quietly. But if there are multiple formal complaints, it becomes harder to sweep under the rug. And if I come forward, what happens to me? I can't promise anything, but the landscape has changed. Derek is already on administrative leave. The company is looking at significant liability exposure. This time, you won't be alone. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, I'll do it. I've been waiting 3 years for this chance. I'm not going to let it pass. Thank you, Rachel. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when he's gone. Within 2 weeks of my report, Derek Holloway was terminated for cause. No severance, no recommendation. His office was cleaned out by security while he watched, humiliated, as his belongings were loaded into cardboard boxes. I heard later that he'd tried to argue, tried to threaten, tried to invoke his relationship with the CEO. None of it worked. The evidence was too damning, the liability too great. Megan was terminated the same day. Her fabricated performance reviews had come to light. Her special projects didn't exist. Her position, the one Derek had created for her, was eliminated. She was escorted from the building at 3 p.m, carrying her plants and photos and the remnants of her destroyed career. That evening, Victoria served Derek with divorce papers. I heard later that he screamed for an hour. Nathan handled my divorce with surgical precision. With Megan unemployed, exposed, and professionally destroyed, she had no leverage. Her attorney tried to argue for alimony. Nathan demolished him. The meeting was in a downtown conference room, all polished wood and leather chairs. Megan's attorney was a sharp-eyed woman named Reynolds, brought in by Richard to try to salvage something from the wreckage. My client has been married to Mr. Taylor for 6 years, Reynolds began. During that time, she contributed to the household, supported his career, and built a life with him. She's entitled to— Your client, Nathan interrupted calmly, systematically embezzled $47,000 from my client over 8 months. She was conducting an affair with her supervisor, which directly led to her termination. She has no claim to the marital home, which Mr. Taylor purchased before the marriage. She has no claim to his retirement accounts. She has no claim to anything except the return of what she stole. Reynolds's expression flickered. Those are serious accusations. They're documented facts. I have bank records showing the transfers to a hidden personal account. I have time-stamped messages confirming the affair. I have evidence that Mrs. Taylor was actively planning to divorce my client and take assets she had no right to. Nathan slid a folder across the table. Feel free to review. Reynolds took the folder. Megan, sitting beside her, had gone very pale. This is, Reynolds began. Comprehensive, Nathan finished. Your client can either accept a clean divorce with no claims against my client, or we can litigate. And if we litigate, everything in that folder becomes public record. Every message, every photo, every financial transaction. Silence in the conference room. May I have a moment with my client? Reynolds asked. Take all the time you need. They stepped out. Nathan turned to me. She'll take the deal. Her attorney knows they can't win this. He was right. 10 minutes later, they came back. Megan's eyes were red. Mrs. Taylor accepts the terms, Reynolds said stiffly, but she wants the record to reflect that she disputes the characterization of her actions. She can dispute whatever she wants. Nathan said. The documents speak for themselves. Megan sat across the conference table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd lost weight. Her designer clothes hung wrong. Her hair was limp, unwashed. She didn't look like the polished marketing director anymore. She looked like someone whose carefully constructed life had collapsed. Chris. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Please, can we talk? Just the two of us? I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd loved. This woman I'd planned a future with. This woman who'd been stealing from me while whispering lies in my ear. No, I said. There's nothing to talk about. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I got everything. She got nothing except the requirement to repay the $47,000. Her parents wrote the check to make it go away. Richard Patterson couldn't stand the public embarrassment of his daughter being sued. Speaking of the Pattersons, Richard's reputation took a hit. His country club friends whispered. His golf buddies made excuses not to play. The careful social standing he'd spent decades building crumbled a little more each day. Linda could barely show her face at church. They blamed me, of course, shot the messenger. But deep down, they knew. They knew whose fault it really was. Victoria's divorce from Derek was even more brutal than mine. I wasn't there, of course, but she told me about it later, over coffee at our usual spot. Her voice was calm, almost clinical, as she described the moment she'd waited 12 years for. He came home that night after the termination, she said. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the divorce papers already laid out. My attorney was in the living room. A forensic accountant was reviewing documents in the study. How did he react? At first, he didn't understand. He thought I was there to comfort him about losing his job. He actually started complaining about how unfair it was, how someone had sabotaged him. She smiled grimly. Then he saw the papers. What did he say? He said I was making a mistake. He said I'd regret it. He said we could work through this like adults. The smile faded. Then I showed him the photographs, the hotel records, the messages I'd gotten from your investigator. And I watched his face change. From what to what? From confident to confused to scared. She picked up her coffee. He tried to deny it, said the photos were faked, the messages were out of context. But when I showed him the financial records, the hidden accounts, the money he'd been collecting from your wife and the others, that's when he knew it was over. The infidelity clause kicked in. She got 70% of everything: the house, the investments, the hidden accounts, the Miami property. Custody was weighted heavily in her favor. Derek's child support payments would consume most of what he had left. His attorney tried to negotiate, Victoria continued. Tried to argue that the prenup was unconscionable, that I'd manipulated him into signing it. My attorney, God, I love that woman. She just laughed. She said, your client signed this document 12 years ago, with full legal representation, in a state of sound mind. He knew exactly what he was agreeing to. He just never thought he'd get caught. And he accepted the terms? He didn't have a choice. Fight it in court, and everything becomes public record. His affairs, the financial manipulation, all of it. His career was already destroyed. His reputation was the only thing he had left to protect. She set down her coffee. So he signed, and I watched him sign, and for the first time in 12 years, I felt like I could breathe. But the financial destruction wasn't enough. Victoria had contacts in media. Her former journalism career gave her connections. She started writing, carefully, legally, without naming names that could trigger lawsuits, about surviving narcissistic infidelity. A blog post went viral. A book deal followed. Derek, meanwhile, spiraled. His industry reputation was destroyed. Companies that had been eager to hire a dynamic senior VP wanted nothing to do with a man fired for cause for workplace harassment. His unemployment stretched from weeks to months. And Megan? Megan discovered what Derek had known all along. She was never going to be his wife. She was entertainment, a conquest, a mark. He never intended to leave you, she told Victoria once, during an ugly confrontation in a coffee shop that Victoria later described to me. He promised me we'd be together. He promised me everything. He promised the same things to Rachel Carter, Victoria replied, and to Kayla Bennett, and to however many others he's used over the years. You weren't special, Megan. You were just next. I'm told Megan didn't have a response to that. 3 months after my divorce was finalized, I sold the house. Too many memories in those walls. Too many evenings where I'd sat in the living room while my wife texted her lover in the next room. Too many dinners where she'd smiled at me and called me sweetheart and calculated how much money she could siphon that month. I bought a condo downtown. Modern, clean, no ghosts. My business was thriving. The way I'd handled the Meridian situation had attracted attention. Companies wanted a security consultant who was discreet, professional, and thorough. I had more work than I could handle. I wasn't dating, wasn't ready, but I was sleeping through the night, most nights. The dreams about Megan's laugh at that dinner table were getting less frequent. Rachel Carter emailed me out of the blue. The company had settled with her, a substantial sum for the hostile work environment she'd endured. More importantly, she was starting a support group for women who'd experienced workplace harassment. She asked if I'd be willing to speak at one of their events about recognizing the signs of predatory behavior. I said yes. It felt like the money I'd given Ethan for his investigation had been well spent. Not just for my revenge, but for something larger. Victoria and I developed an unlikely friendship. We met for coffee once a month. Two people bonded by betrayal and survival. She sent me early drafts of her book. I gave her honest feedback. We didn't talk about Derek or Megan much anymore. We talked about our kids, her, and my work, me, and the strange experience of rebuilding a life from scorched earth. Do you regret it? She asked me once. The way we handled it? No, I said. They made choices. We made sure there were consequences. I don't think that's wrong. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty for being so calculated about it. Do you feel guilty? She thought about it. No, not really. I feel relieved. I feel free. She smiled. And I feel rich. That made me laugh. First time I'd laughed in months. 1 year later, I was seeing someone new. Allison, Nathan had introduced us. She was a pediatrician, completely unlike Megan in every way that mattered. She knew about my divorce, the broad strokes anyway. She didn't ask for details. I appreciated that. It wasn't serious yet. I was taking things slow, maybe too slow. But for the first time since that dinner, I could imagine a future. Not the future I'd planned with Megan, but something different. Something honest. Then Megan reached out. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say something. Can we meet? Not to reconcile, just to apologize. Please. I stared at that message for a long time. My first instinct was to ignore it, the way I'd ignored all her other messages over the past year. But something made me pause. Maybe curiosity, maybe closure. Maybe just the desire to see with my own eyes what she'd become. One meeting, public place, coffee. She was waiting when I arrived at the cafe. I barely recognized her. The polished marketing director was gone. Her hair was different, darker, simpler. No designer clothes, just jeans and a plain sweater. She'd lost weight in a way that didn't look healthy, but it was her eyes that struck me most. Something had gone out of them. The spark, the calculation, the constant assessment. All of it was gone. She looked tired, defeated. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. I almost didn't. I know. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I've been trying to figure out what to say for months. I've written 100 letters and deleted all of them. So say what you need to say. She took a breath. I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, though I am sorry for that. For all of it. For the lies. For the money. For the years I spent pretending to be someone I wasn't. For the way I made you feel like you weren't enough when the truth was, I didn't deserve you. I said nothing. I'm not going to make excuses. I could tell you about how Derek made me feel special, how he promised me a life I thought I wanted, how I convinced myself that what I was doing was somehow justified. But none of that matters. I did what I did. I made choices. I have to live with them. You do. I've been in therapy. A lot of therapy. A ghost of a smile. My father's paying for it. I think it's the only way he knows how to deal with his disappointment in me. What made you finally reach out? She looked down at her coffee. I had to hit bottom first. The unemployment. Living with my parents again, listening to their disappointment every day. Watching everyone I used to know cross the street to avoid me. And then one night, about 3 months ago, I was lying in bed at 2 in the morning, and I realized something. What? That I didn't even recognize myself anymore. The woman who'd done those things, the lying, the stealing, the betrayal, she wasn't someone I wanted to be. She wasn't even someone I could explain. I'd spent years building this perfect exterior, and underneath it, I was rotting. She shook her head. I told my therapist that. She said the first step toward change was seeing yourself clearly. So I started trying to do that. And what do you see? Someone who was selfish, who was empty inside and tried to fill that emptiness with validation from men who would never truly love her. Someone who took a good man for granted because she was too broken to appreciate what she had. She finally looked up at me. I see someone who deserves what happened to her, who needed to lose everything to understand what anything was worth. The smile faded. I ruined everything, Chris. My career, my family, my marriage. And the worst part is, I can't even blame anyone else. This wasn't done to me. I did it to myself. I waited. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued. I don't expect anything from you. I just needed you to hear me say that I know what I did. I understand it now in a way I didn't before. And I'm sorry. Genuinely. Fully sorry. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 6 years. This woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. This woman who'd torn all of it down for a man who never intended to catch her. Did I forgive her? No. Some things aren't forgivable. But sitting there, looking at the ruins of who she used to be, I realized I didn't hate her anymore. The anger that had driven me through the investigation, the divorce, the systematic destruction of her world. It was gone. Spent. There was nothing left but a kind of distant sadness for what we'd both lost. I appreciate you saying that, I said finally. I hope you find peace, Megan. I genuinely do. But we're done. We've been done since that dinner. She nodded. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. I know, I just needed to say it. I stood up. Goodbye, Megan. Goodbye, Chris. I walked out of that cafe and didn't look back. Strange thing. I didn't feel satisfaction. Didn't feel triumph. Just nothing. And that nothing, after everything, felt like the closest thing to freedom I'd found in a long time. 6 months later, I got a letter from an attorney. Linda Patterson had died. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected. According to her family, she'd been in declining health for months. Stress, the doctor said. Too much stress. The letter included a personal note from Linda herself, written in the weeks before her death. Dear Chris, I know I have no right to write to you. I know you probably hate me, and I don't blame you. But I'm dying. I can feel it. And I can't leave this world without telling you the truth. I knew. I knew about Derek long before you discovered them. Megan came to me, terrified, when she found out she was pregnant 2 years ago. She didn't know whose child it was, yours or his. I helped her end the pregnancy. I told her it was for the best. I convinced myself I was protecting her, protecting you, protecting everyone from a scandal that would destroy us all. I was wrong. I was a coward. I chose my reputation and my family's image over honesty, over decency, over you. A man who had done nothing but love my daughter. I've enclosed a check for $200,000. I know money can't fix what was broken, but I want you to have it. Do something good with it. Something that might make up in some small way for all the harm we caused. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry for everything. Linda. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat in my quiet apartment and stared at the wall for a very long time. 2 years ago. A pregnancy, a child that might have been mine. All of it hidden, covered up, erased, and I'd never known. I'd been walking through my marriage blind while everyone around me saw clearly. The check was still in the envelope. $200,000. Guilt money. Conscience money. Money that couldn't bring back the child I'd never gotten to know about. Couldn't erase the years of lies. Couldn't rebuild what had been systematically destroyed. I thought about what to do with it. For a while, I considered sending it back. Some kind of statement about not wanting anything from that family. But that would be pride talking, and pride was wasteful. Instead, I called Rachel Carter. "Chris," she said, surprised. "Is everything okay? I have a donation for your organization, a substantial one." "Oh, that's wonderful. Can I ask how much?" $200,000. Silence on the line. Then, "Chris, are you serious?" "Someone who wronged me left it to me in her will. I don't want it for myself, but I want it to mean something. Use it for the support groups. Use it for legal fees for women fighting back against predators. Use it however you think will do the most good." I don't know what to say. "Say you'll put it to work." "We will. I promise you, we will." After I hung up, I felt something settle inside me. The last piece of Linda Patterson's guilt, transformed into something useful. Something that might actually help people. It was the best revenge of all, I decided. Not destruction, transformation. Taking something ugly and making it beautiful. Allison and I took a weekend trip to the coast. We'd been together almost a year by then, careful, patient, neither of us in any rush. We walked on the beach as the sun set, her hand warm in mine. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure. Do you ever regret it? The way things ended with Megan, I mean. The whole calculated approach." I thought about it. I thought about the dinner, the phone, the messages. I thought about $47,000 and 8 months of lies. I thought about Derek Holloway smirking through corporate meetings while he destroyed families. I thought about Rachel Carter, stuck in a basement cubicle for 3 years because she dared to say no. I thought about Victoria, thriving now, raising her kids in a house she owned outright. I thought about Rachel's organization, growing stronger every month. I thought about the women who'd come forward because someone had finally believed them. "I used to think revenge would feel like victory," I said finally. It didn't. It felt like surgery, removing something that was killing me. I don't regret the cut. I regret that it was necessary. Allison squeezed my hand. That's probably the healthiest perspective I've ever heard on revenge. I've had a lot of therapy, she laughed. Haven't we all? We walked in comfortable silence as the sun touched the horizon. My phone buzzed. Nathan, sending a photo of his newborn son. The baby was red-faced and wrinkled and perfect. "Meet your godson," the message read. "We're calling him Christopher." I showed Allison. She smiled. "He's beautiful." He is. Life moves forward. It always does, for those willing to move with it. I'd spent a year tearing down the lies I'd built my life on. Now I was building something new, something honest, something mine. The sun set over the water, and I stood there with a good woman beside me and a future ahead of me and no ghosts at my back. It was enough. After everything, it was more than enough. 6 weeks later, Nathan's firm had their holiday party at some upscale restaurant downtown. I didn't usually attend these things, but being a godfather came with certain obligations, including showing up when Nathan's partners wanted to show off the baby photos. I was getting a drink at the bar when a familiar voice cut through the noise. Chris Taylor, small world. I turned. Derek Holloway stood there, thinner than I remembered, his expensive suit now slightly too big. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by something harder to define, desperation trying to masquerade as composure. He held a glass of whiskey and wore the smile of a man pretending he wasn't drowning. Derek, I kept my voice neutral. Didn't expect to see you here. Consulting work. Even disgraced executives find employment eventually, if they're willing to be humble. The smile didn't reach his eyes. I hear you're doing well. Business booming. New relationship. Quite the recovery. I manage. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I know it was you. The security audit. The concerns about executive email. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. I said nothing. You know what the funny thing is? I actually respected you. When we first met at that security briefing, I thought, here's a guy who knows his stuff. Professional. Competent. He took a sip of whiskey. I had no idea you were married to her. Not at first. By the time I found out, it was already what? Too late to stop? Too enjoyable to resist? His jaw tightened. She pursued me. Did she tell you that? I wasn't looking for anything. She came to me. Walked into my office one day and made it very clear what she wanted. So you're the victim here. I'm saying it takes two people to have an affair. I made mistakes, sure. But I didn't force her to do anything. She wanted everything she got. The attention, the promotion, the promises. She wanted it all. And when you got bored, when you moved on to the next one, what was she supposed to do then? He blinked. There wasn't going to be a next one. Megan and I, spare me. I set my drink on the bar. I've read the messages, Derek. All of them. The ones from 2 years ago, from the woman before Megan. The ones you sent to Kayla Bennett while you were still with my wife. You have a pattern. You've always had a pattern. You ruined my life, you know. My marriage. My career. Everything I built. You built it on a foundation of lies and exploitation. I just made sure other people could see what was underneath. I filed a factual report about genuine security violations. What the company found during their investigation wasn't my doing. It was yours. You coordinated with my wife, he said, and there was heat in his voice now. She told me, Victoria. The two of you planned this together. You used each other to destroy us. Victoria and I both wanted the truth to come out. We coordinated timing, nothing more. Everything that happened to you, Derek, happened because of your own choices. My choices, he laughed bitterly. You think you're so righteous, so morally superior, but you're just as calculating as I ever was. You're just better at hiding it. Maybe, but here's the difference between us. I looked him in the eye. When I'm done, I can look at myself in the mirror. Can you? His face flushed. You sanctimonious. Everything okay here? Nathan appeared at my elbow, all casual friendliness with steel underneath. Derek stepped back, visibly composing himself. Fine, just catching up with an old acquaintance. He raised his glass in a mock toast. Good seeing you, Chris. Enjoy your evening. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Nathan watched him go. What was that about? Unfinished business. Don't worry about it. You sure? I'm sure. I picked up my drink. Now show me those baby pictures again. I need something to look at that isn't Derek Holloway's face. Nathan laughed and pulled out his phone, and I let myself be drawn into photos of my godson's tiny fingers and ridiculous expressions. Derek Holloway was behind me, in every sense that mattered. The future was ahead. And for the first time in a very long time, that future looked bright.